My questions have almost all been answered today. And during the segments of refreshment, I was talking with my wife, and a new question pops in. Now, I don't meditate. This past year has been amazing. I've unblocked a lot of things that I've said, oh, I can't do that, and I just let it all go, and things are phenomenal. But I want to start meditating. And I listened to you today about, getting that impulse and following.
Well, things are going really well for you. Maybe you found another way of getting in the receiving mode. Don't be so quick to say you need to do something that you're not doing. If things are going really well, it's a really good indication that you're in the receiving mode a lot. Esther walks around in the receiving mode. She doesn't have to be in meditation to be in the receiving mode. The appreciation mode is the receiving mode. The joyful mode is the receiving mode. When you are feeling exhilarated, that's the receiving mode. Sometimes people get out and take a good run. We were talking to our athlete friend about it, and they get into the zone. They're in the receiving mode. In other words, there are a lot of ways to get there. Meditation is just a really surefire way to get there.
I think the question came to me, it was, inspired by the conversations we've had today. The impulse, and I know a lot of people here, we all have jobs and we work for a living to enjoy life and things like that. But if we get that impulse, can we say, I want to do that, but I've got to go to work? So when do I get back to the impulse? Is it something we have to do right then and there?
Well, the thing about the impulses that are coming from Source, they're always applicable in this moment, or Source wouldn't give it to you. Source has sized everything up. Source knows exactly where you stand in relationship to everything you want, and Source isn't looking to get you fired. If you've received it, then it is applicable now. Because Source isn't talking to you what you're going to do down the road or tomorrow or the next day or even this afternoon. It's coming right here and now. It's coming now. It's now. Esther went with Jerry. He liked to fish in streams. And they went to Montana. The Bitterroot River was one of his favorite streams to fish on. And he knew where all the fish were. He'd say to Esther, there's one over there. I need to cast over. And they'd have a fish. And there's one over there. I need to cast over there. And they'd have a fish. But one of the things that he liked most to do is he'd take his rod and his creel and he'd roll up his pants and he would run down the rocks in the river. And Esther watched him, and it was like the rocks appeared beneath his feet. How he could do that, and Esther would attempt it. She was always wet to her waist because she didn't believe the rocks would be where she wanted them to be, and she didn't believe that her feet would be stable beneath them, and she fell on her butt many times in the water. But Jerry had been doing it for so many years that he just believed that whatever he needed in regards to that would be right there where he needed it to be when he needed it to be there. And this is the way that we want you to think about the information that is coming from your inner being. Your inner being knows where you stand, knows what your capabilities are, know the way your mind works, knows what you want, and knows what the path of least resistance, your path of least resistance is. And you can trust that when that thought comes from the receiving mode. And how are you going to know? How are you going to come to know? Well, if we were standing in your physical shoes, we'd receive some thoughts and we'd act on them, and we'd see if they are received from inner being or if they're received from somewhere else. The stuff that turns out good, you can be pretty sure was inspired. And the stuff that's turning out not so good, maybe it wasn't so inspired. You see what we're getting at? So what was your question? What was the new question?
The new question is when you get that impulse, is it time to act on that immediately or put it off? And you've answered that. So.
All right, so you're driving down the road and you get an impulse to change lanes. Nothing makes Esther more mad at herself, and we don't encourage her to be mad at herself, but this makes her mad at herself. She gets an impulse, she doesn't act on it, and then the reason for the impulse becomes obvious. Have a feeling I should change lanes. Oh, well, I don't think I will. And then you get rear-ended and you think, that impulse was probably a pretty good idea. Next time I'm going to act on it more efficiently.